I'm a lawyer in real life. I don't play one on television. The three officers who went to trial in the Tyre Nichols case have been found not guilty on the most serious charges of violating his civil rights and causing his death, but guilty on the charges of witness tampering. How did we get here? How is it possible with video that they could be found not guilty of causing his death? Let's talk about it. So let's start with the facts. The facts are it is very difficult to convict a police officer of murder. Now, these officers were not charged in a federal case with murder. They were charged with violating his civil rights that led to his murder, but it's very difficult. So listen to these statistics in order to understand just how difficult it is. Since 2005, 139 police officers have been arrested for murder or manslaughter due to an on-duty shooting. So we weren't dealing with a shooting here, but the numbers tell the story. Of those 139 officers, just 44 were convicted of anything. Just 7 of those 44 were convicted of murder. The others were convicted of charges ranging from manslaughter to official misconduct. So that just illustrates how difficult it is to convict a police officer. So next you have to remember that jurors tend to believe officers and give them the benefit of the doubt. So the jurors in this case were 4 white women, 4 white men, 4 black women, 2 black men, 2 Asian men. They took, I believe it was 6 hours of deliberation to come back with the verdicts of guilty on witness tampering and not guilty on the other charges. Now, what were the arguments that their attorneys had in this case? Well, first they said this was a high-risk traffic stop. So they were already setting the stage to say that this was a dangerous situation for the officers. They also claimed that the officers were acting within the Memphis Police Department's policy when Nichols ran a red light and failed to stop, justifying their use of force as he continued to evade them despite being tased and pepper sprayed. So it's reported that the defense also highlighted Nichols' behavior, saying that he made it challenging for them to arrest him, and they questioned whether there was a constitutional right to run from the police. So they argued he did not have a right to run for the police, whether he was afraid, whether the stop was unjustified, or he thought it was unjustified. So they portrayed the police officer's actions reasonable under the circumstances. So I know for a lot of people this is going to be very shocking, this verdict, given that we had a video that showed them beating him to death. And that from the very beginning, it didn't appear that they had a legitimate reason for stopping him. When this case first happened, a federal police officer who happens to be in Memphis told me that he did not believe these officers would be found guilty of murder in state court or guilty of causing Tyre Nichols' death in federal court. And this is what has happened, because the officers also know that it is very difficult to get a conviction of police officers even when there's an abundance of evidence, even when there's videotapes. There are other people, like the other 2 of the officers involved, pleading guilty. There are witnesses. There's evidence of their bad behavior. It is still very difficult to convict police officers. So that's the verdict for federal court. These officers still face state charges. They're charged with second-degree murder in state court. That is a very high charge with a very high burden for the prosecution. They could very well be found not guilty of murder in state court also. But on the federal charges, the officers are facing about 20 years for witness tampering. I believe it's a maximum of 20 years, but that's where we are. So I know you all are going to have a lot of opinions about this. Let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think should happen in situations like this? How do you think the system could be more just? Let me know what you think in the comments.